In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to construct these beautiful curvilinear earrings with spirals and wooden beads. Before we actually begin the construction of these beautiful earrings, let's talk about some of the tools that we used. We needed to use a pair of our standard chain link pliers to do most of the work, a pair of side cutters, and of course, round nose pliers. Recently, I've also been using multi-size wire wrapping pliers. I find them very useful in forming loops of various sizes. So here you see two pairs. Not necessary for you to go out and buy these, because there are other ways of achieving those loops. But they are fun. And here is the heavier pair that I use to form that loop. I use the chasing hammer on these to flare out the bottom part of the earring. To hammer on something, I used a steel block. The wire that I used is 18 gauge nickel silver wire. For this pair of earrings, I also used wooden beads. And I like to use the wooden beads because they allow me to widen the hole large enough to accommodate the wire that I need to pass through it. Let's make the earrings. To begin this earring project, I will measure out two 6-inch lengths of 18 gauge nickel silver wire. With my flush cutters in hand, I cut the wire. I'll put that wire on the side. At this very early stage of development, I should also form the coiled eye pin that allows me to form the earring. How do we form the coiled eye pin? Using my handmade coiling tool, I stick a length of wire in the tool, and I actually extend it significantly beyond the piece of wood. I'm gonna coil the wire around this end of the nail. This end is what's going to actually form the top part of the eye pin. What I do to hold the wire securely in place while it's inserted into the wood, notice the hole is quite big, so the wire could easily turn around as I attempt to coil it around the nail. So what I do is I take a toothpick and I simply stick it in there. And that locks the wire into the wood. Now I can easily form the coil. How many times around should we go? 4? That looks good. Remove it. Trim off the excess wire that flares out. Okay. The coil is 1, 2, 3, 4 loops long. What am I going to do with this excess wire? The excess wire is going to form the top part of my coiled eye pin. I'll position my round nose pliers at that 1/2 inch mark, bend my wire out at a 45-degree angle, then position my pliers, and I'll turn my wire around the tip of the round nose pliers to form a loop. There we go. Nice. See what I've done so far? I intend to finish off the eye pin with that kind of wire wrap. That makes for a very secure interlocking of parts. None of this is coming apart. A pair of pliers I neglected to mention in my original supply list and tool list. The bent nose pliers. They're wonderful to work with. So I'm going to grab the loop of the piece that I'm making here, and I'm going to take this extra length of wire and wrap it around like so. Having done that, I use my flat nose pliers to compress the coil. And we want to take our side cutters, trim off the excess. Push it nice and flush. See, the flat side goes up against the wire to give a flush cut. This is the concave side. Notice there's always a little bit of wire that sticks out, kind of flares out. I'm going to use my chain link pliers to squeeze that down. There we go, a very, very nicely formed piece that we'll be able to build our earring around. One final thing to finesse this into shape. So I'm going to put it back on the nail, if it fits. And I'm going to use the nail to realign it in a vertical way. Now I'm going to have to make another one. Having made the 2 coiled eye pins, now I'm going to continue to form the wire, the 6-inch length of wire, into the earring itself. Step 1 is to take your 6 inches of wire and bend it in half. Try to keep it as even as possible. See what I'm doing? I'll put that down. Pick up my other 6-inch length and bend that one in half. When you're creating a pair of earrings, it's always good to maintain parallel development in each half of the pair. And this is what I mean. Right now, we have our wires simply bent in half, and the hanging devices are made. What I would like to do at this stage of development, to create the first important loop in the earring, the large loop, is to use my multi-sized wire-forming pair of pliers. And see how I can grab that? It has a neoprene hose attached to that side of the pliers, so it doesn't mar the metal and flatten the metal, and allows me to get a good grip and squeeze it. There we go. See, I'm finessing it gently. I want it to curve like a drop of water. I can take this piece of wood with the hole drilled in it. Pinch it down that way. That actually creates a nice teardrop shape, doesn't it? All right. Using my multi-sized wire forming pliers, I grab that and sort of finesse it, like I did in creating this initial shape. I put it in the wooden dowel. Actually, what's really nice about this, I can insert them both in there. Huh. Never thought of that. All right, it worked. Why am I doing this? Because now having bent them with the pliers, I could assure that they're the same size. That's nice. Wow, that works. That's a good way of maintaining the symmetry. Perfect. So we could actually refer to this as step 2. Step 1 was just to form the hanging devices. Step 2 was to bend the 6-inch length of wire in half. These are beautiful. Before you do anything else, insert the wooden bead. Okay? You know, I'd like to point something out. I can tell by the way these are formed that this pair is not going to look exactly like this pair. It's already taken on a different type of curving in that area. That's okay. By maintaining parallel development, in other words, the development of each half is at the same stage of development, the pair will be symmetrical. So what do we do next now that the beads are in place? This is extremely important. We have to attach these before we could do any bending of the wire. I simply insert the coil part onto the extended legs of the loop. There we go. Nice. Oh, there it is. I was looking for that. And we'll put that on. Okay? Nice. Now we're ready to introduce the next bend. Something I need to point out. Before we actually make that bend, I want to flatten out the tip of the wire a bit. Why am I going to do that? It's going to make it easier for me to grab my wire with the pliers, and also I find just ever so slight flattening of the end of the wire, like you see me just do. It's minimal, but it results in a nicer spiral. To create the large spiral, I'm going to grab the tip of the wire with my round nose pliers, turn it like so, okay, so I've begun the spiraling process. Now, using my curved nose pliers, I turn it in like this, and I work it up. Can you see what I'm doing? Is that it? I don't know. I think so. Let's do it to the other half. Just like I did before. And every step of the way, I'm maintaining parallel development. That's good. That is close. Little variations do occur. That is the human touch. The nicest part of the earrings are the subtle variations. It gives it character. Okay, the challenge is upon us. We have to insert that short piece of wire into this bead. So, what I'm going to do, I hope this works, is take my pliers, begin to bend the wire around, like so. See what I'm doing? The wire is excessively long. My original plan was to take this and push the bead over the wire and simply move it up to where I want it to be. I can't do it. I could easily bend that a little bit and then work it in this way, but I'd rather trim the wire at this point. I think that would be the easiest solution. I'm going to take my flush cutters and position it where I'd like to trim it, right about there. See what I'm doing? So right where the wire begins to curve here, that's where I'm going to make my trim. We're going to do the same thing on this one. That definitely needs to be trimmed. Okay, so I don't have to measure with the bead this time. I know where I want that. Right there. I'd also like to do what I did on the inner coil. I like to flatten that out a bit. Position it on my steel block, and with my chasing hammer, flare out the edge. Just a little. Nice. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. Beautiful. Now, hopefully, I should be able to push that close to that part of the earring. And excellent. Work my bead into it. The next step is to create that very, very small spiral right there. So, using my round nose pliers, I'll grab that little flattened out tip. See? I just want to make a tiny little turn. Then, having begun the curve, I'll use my curved nose pliers to continue. There's no set rule here. I like to turn it until that spiral, small spiral, presses against the bead. But that's it. Here. Let's finish this one up. Grab it with the very tip of my pliers. Turn it. Then continue to turn it with my curved nose. See, these are very effective for this. The straight nose, if I was using my straight nose, I wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing as well. These are ideal. Okay, now the only thing that remains is to compare them. It seems that I pushed this one up further, so I'll do the same on this. something really nice about wire when it modulates from thin to thick and flared. So we still have to do that to this. Let's flare out the metal. I want to achieve a flare on just one side and allow it to gradually taper back in as it approaches the bead. You really got to concentrate on what you're doing. I don't want to hit the bead, I'll break it. And as I hammer, I really watch what I'm doing. I try to control each hit of the hammer in such a way that I'm smoothing out the metal. That is nice. That is really nice. Okay. What I'm in the process of doing is matching up the flares. I'm hammering. This one is very successful. This needs a little bit more work to make it as wide as that. What remains to be done is the ear wires will need to be attached. Now, what I'd like to do is make myself a pair of ear wires and come back in a few minutes. I'm going to position the ear wire on the earring so the back side, that's the back side, faces in, and that side, the front side, will face out. Okay? Just like that. Then I grab the loop of the earring with my chain link pliers, and I'm going to bend that around. I find it is easier to bend it around when you using a pair of pliers instead of your finger. There we go. That is nice. 2 times around is enough. Needless to say, that will never come apart. Then using my side cut as I get in there, trim it. Oop, I should have held that. See that? Flies out and hits you. That's why you always wear these. Because, and I have a pair on actually. I play it safe. It's not worth getting a piece of metal in your eye. The way that flew out, if it hit me in the face, it could have hit me in the eye, and you know, that's a big problem. So do wear your goggles. Accidents happen. What I like to do then, after I trim off the excess, is make sure the end is not sticking out. I work it down with my pliers. Okay, I'm going to add the other ear wire, and that'll be it. They're finished, and they actually came out really nice. The handmade ear wires are attached. This was a fun pair of earrings to make. The incorporation of the bead is a little challenging, but with a little bit of practice, I think you're going to get it. Hope you enjoyed watching the video.